Aya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Canto 2, Chapter 10, Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions, text number 24. Hastaururuhatustasya Hastaururuhatustasya Nana karma chikirshaya Nana karma chikirshaya Tayostu balavan indra Tayostu balavan indra Adanam ubhayashrayam Adanam ubhayashrayam Hastaururuhatustasya Nana karma chikirshaya Tayostu balavan indra Adanam ubhayashrayam Anyone else would like to chant? Please repeat word for word. Hasto, the hands. Ruruhatu, manifested. Tasya, his. Nana, various. Karma, work. Chikirshaya, being so desirous. Tayoho, of them. To, however. Balavan, to give strength. Indra, the demigod in heaven. Adanam, activities of the hand. Ubhaya ashrayam, dependent on both the demigod and the hand. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. Thereafter, when the Supreme Person desired to perform various varieties of work, the two hands and their controlling strength and Indra, the demigod in heaven, became manifested, as also the acts dependent on both the hands and the demigod. Purport. In every item, we can note with profit that the sense organs of the living entities are never independent at any stage. The Lord is known as the Lord of the senses, Rishikesha. Thus the sense organs of the living entities are manifested by the will of the Lord, and each organ is controlled by a certain type of demigod. No one therefore can claim any proprietorship of the senses. The living entity is controlled by the senses are controlled by the demigods, and the demigods are the servants of the Supreme Lord. That is the arrangement of the system of creation. The whole thing is controlled ultimately by the Supreme Lord, and there is no independence either of the material nature or of the living entity. The illusioned living entity who claims to be the lord of his senses is under the clutches of the external energy of the Lord. As long as the living entity continues to be puffed up by his tiny existence, he is to be understood to be under the stringent control of the external energy of the Lord. And there is no question of liberation from the clutches of illusion, Maya, however much one may declare himself to be himself a liberated soul. Om Jnanatirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, everyone. So it's a very nectar purport, Bhaktivedanta purports. The strength of Bhaktivedanta purports is super direct, no messing around. So this is what we see in the last line of this purport, as Prabhupada is very beautifully mentioning. As long as a living entity continues to be puffed up by his tiny existence, he is to be understood to be under the stringent control of the external energy of the Lord. And there is no question of liberation from the clutches of illusion, Maya, however much one may declare himself a liberated soul. It's quite a powerful thing to say. However much one may declare himself to be a liberated soul. Because this is the common nature of a living entity, is to declare himself to be the supreme, or I am the great person. If you go around India, travel, or now actually you can go anywhere in the world, travel around, you'll see some of the yogis and gurus claiming that I am the one, I am the most liberated person. And if you sit with them, spend time with them, observe them, would you see any qualities that they possess of a liberated person or a highly devoted person of the absolute truth? Would you see that? Very rarely you would see that. Because this is the age of Kali. The age of Kali brings a lot of chaos and a lot of cheaters. So this is what we see. That's why Prabhupada is mentioning this point that however one much may declare himself to be a liberated soul, that doesn't mean he is a liberated soul. So that's why we see in ISKCON, our gurus and sannyasis and highly, people on that platform of leadership are trained very well. It's a big process. Not any random person joining ISKCON tomorrow can become a leader day after tomorrow or become a sannyasi, I remember once I met someone who was like a senior person. He told me once that I would like to take sannyas from ISKCON. And I'm like, what's your qualification? How long have you been practicing? I mean, not that I can give you sannyas, but I can still ask you what is your qualification if you want to take sannyas. He's like, I was practicing initially. I was chanting one mala, one round a day. And then I stopped. But now I would like to, preach this message to the world. I'm like, you were only chanting one mala, one round. Sannyasis are supposed to chant what? Minimum 64 daily. So you have a long way to go. He didn't like that when I said that to him, so he just went off. Says, no, I don't think you know how it goes. I was like, no problem. That's good. So that's what people are like. And we can see Prabhupada often give this example that in Kali Yuga, people will approach a guru accordingly, as per their sincerity. If you are a sincere person, you will find a guru that is sincere. Today is also a departure of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we would like to share some stories of that also. We'll touch on that a little bit. So as we know, Prabhupada met many sannyasis, because he was raised in a Vaishnav family. His father was a pure devotee, as Prabhupada says. So, but he would see many sannyasis from different sampradayas or even Gaudiya sampradaya would come and, assemble at his house, take prasad and stuff. But Prabhupada didn't think many of these sannyasis are qualified. They have no, potential or any skill to be. They weren't very, like the person you want to be, who understands the mission. I mean, just because you're chanting 64 rounds, maybe you are telling people that you should chant 64 rounds, doesn't give you necessarily the qualities to carry on the mission of Lord Chaitanya. As Prabhupada made it clear, ISKCON is a preaching movement, If you're not preaching, then you have to start preaching, because this is the preaching movement, and this is the essence of ISKCON, the 7 purposes of ISKCON. The first purpose is to share it with others, the Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada could see that these sannyasis are not, they don't have that, what he reads in Bhagavatam, it's not there. There's something missing always. And that something missing could be the enthusiasm or the sincerity to preach. But as soon as Prabhupada met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, without a doubt, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur looked at Prabhupada and told him, he didn't even know him. Spiritually he knows him, but, like he just met him. He just met him, just now. And he tells him, why don't you preach the message of Lord Chaitanya in English throughout the world? And Prabhupada is like, wow, that's a pretty straight, direct instruction, So Prabhupada was so convinced that he's like, this is the person who knows the mission of Lord Chaitanya, who understands the mission of Lord Chaitanya. And Prabhupada, even though he did not take initiation from him officially for a very long time, but he felt he was initiated that day, the same day. He felt he took Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur as his spiritual master. So this is what the Shastra tells us. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koe, Lava Matra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. Just a little association with the pure devotee can take one to the highest platform. And this is what the analogy is teaching, the example is teaching us. Like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, with just a little association Prabhupada had of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he was fully convinced. Because he saw the sincerity, But in Kali Yuga, things are a bit different. There are many gurus that may not, give you instructions to preach or to spread the mission. But instead, they give you instructions to please give renounce all your money or whatever wealth or possessions you have, give it to me. Give it to me, because I'm a pure devotee. That's not how a pure devotee talks. Prabhupada used to say, if you have whatever you have, give us to us. We'll not use it for ourselves. We'll use it for Krishna. That is pure devotional service. Whatever you can get, engage it in Krishna's service. That's what's necessary, and that's what needed. So in this purport and in this translation, we are hearing that when Supreme Person desired to perform varieties of work, 2 hands and their controlling strength, Indra. So basically demigods are considered in the structure. Kshatriyas are supposed to be the arms of the Supreme Lord. So basically all the demigods we know are majorly Kshatriyas of a Kshatriya clan. They are fighters and warriors and always doing all that stuff. So this is what we know, that the arm is desired by the Supreme Lord. So everything, Prabhupada says over here, that with a living entity is controlled by the senses, and the senses are controlled by the demigods. But who is the demigod controlled by? The Supreme Lord. So ultimately everything is controlled by the Supreme Lord. So it's difficult for a person, like we see in our current society, people would use their arm and strength to acquire a lot of material possessions or use other people, There's a very famous sport called wrestling, boxing. All the strength, 8-10 hours a day of bodybuilding, and just to hit another person, what is the point? That's what one may think. Instead, you can use the same 2 arms to use it in Krishna's service, and you can get highest goal. How can you use these two arms in Krishna's service? There's many varieties of the ways you can do, You can take this beautiful Bhagavad Gita, go on the streets, give it to someone. Beautiful service you can do in Krishna's service. You can take Bhagavatam, give it to someone. Beautiful service, Or if you can't do that, you can just take the book, open the book and start reading it. That's also great service you can do. And just by doing that, if you don't want to do that, you can take a broom or a mop and start mopping the temple. That will clean the heart. And that's great service also. And Krishna appreciates whatever service you do, So little service you do will be appreciated. Not that you take these two arms, take money from Krishna. Go to the temple, fold your hands in front of Krishna and ask for, please give me some property, give me some possessions, give me a wife, give me some kids. Most of the people do that. So this is not what you should do. We're not beggars for material possession. We are beggars for spiritual possessions. Spiritual possessions of bhakti. That's what we beg Krishna for, sincerely. So the point is that we should take time and effort to engage our senses in Krishna's service as much as possible. Because without devotional service, spiritual advancement will not happen. You can sit in a corner of the room and chant throughout the day, but we all know how much chanting will you get done if you try to do that. It's good, it's still benefit, some benefit will still be there, but we would recommend to engage physically in Krishna's service. That will bring you more benefit, because actually you're doing something practical, So we should do that. We have minimum prescribed rounds of 16. We should chant them with full focus. Sometimes it's difficult to have that full focus. I don't know if anyone's ever felt like that. Maybe it's just me. But sometimes it's difficult to have that full focus. But I was just hearing a beautiful lecture from my Gurudev. He was saying, one should have his environment in such a way. It will be difficult, but that doesn't mean one give up. Like for example, in normal material society, it takes about 40 years for a person, on general occasions, 30 to 40 years from a person to be from the beginner level to the advanced level. It's a career. And many people take about 40 years to get there. And then why do we want instant result in chanting, which is probably even more difficult to do, with sincerity. So it takes time to perform with pure attention, but we should be motivated always to perform our regulated principles in chanting. We shouldn't just make it mundane, because if we take it mechanical. Has anyone ever done mechanical chanting? Maybe it's just me. Yeah? So, Jai Shri Shyala Gopinath Ki Jai. So sometimes the chanting may feel like mechanical chanting. And that's the time we need to think that, is that why did I start doing chanting? Is that what I'm trying to get out of chanting? Is just to chant something out of my mouth, I don't even know what I'm chanting. Like seriously, that's what happens. Sometimes people are chanting with so much mechanic. I've seen devotees do that. Sometimes myself do that. I chant, but I don't know what I'm chanting. Like sometimes I even make mistake in chanting a simple mantra. Hare Krishna mantra, just miss one Krishna or miss one Rama because I'm chanting in speed, because I'm looking at my watch, try to finish in time. So all this is mechanical chanting, and it becomes very easy to get caught up if one's get used to the mechanical chanting. So we should try to break this, we should try to break this arrangement that we are in of mechanical chanting, and should go, perform chanting with enthusiasm. And how do we get enthusiasm while chanting or hearing about Krishna? Is with the association of devotees who are inspired, not the ones not inspired. If you chant with the devotees who are not inspired to do chanting, your chanting will become more mechanical. So instead we should look for the shelter, the association of devotees who are more, Sometimes we think like that, I was hearing Gurudev was mentioning this point, that sometimes we think that, even though our chanting may not be very good, or like our spiritual sadhana may not be very good, but we may think, oh, this guy, he has very bad sadhana. I should give him my association. If I spend time with him, his chanting or his sadhana will become better. When you think like that, you shouldn't think like that, because very rarely a person, can help another person when he's drowning himself. So just try to focus on your sadhana first and improve it. Get association with senior devotees or devotees who are very spiritually focused, spiritually minded. Then it will help you make advancement in your own spiritual practice. And then you can help others. So this is what we should try to cultivate. It's very beautiful to see all the great preachers present in the room. Almost all the great preachers present in the room. So it's good to have association. I was thinking when everyone, the brahmacharis, returned yesterday for a day, I was feeling inspired to get their association, hear some nectar stories of book distribution, Sankirtan, nectar, and, relish it. And the confidence and inspiration is automatically building in the heart. And this is what happens when we look for good association, So now we can just a little talk about, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's pastimes performed. As we know that Srila Prabhupada, he was like a young boy, He's like a young boy when he took shelter of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And Prabhupada says that, that when you are young, that's the best time to take a spiritual master or, cultivate spiritual practice, because he gives the example of a bamboo, a bamboo stick. Does anyone know that example, analogy that he uses of the bamboo stick? Because when a bamboo is old, it's hard to break or something. I don't know exactly how the analogy goes. Do you remember the analogy he uses? When the bamboo is fresh and young, it's very easy to break, or something like that analogy he uses. I can't fully exactly remember the words he used, but something with that, with the bamboo. When it's young, it's easy to cultivate. So we should take, and that's what Prabhupada wanted to do, he had that plan. He didn't know when he would go to the West, who would he meet, but he had that sincere desire to serve his spiritual master, follow the instructions. Imagine he got that instruction to preach in English when he was a young boy, and he didn't do it until he was old man. But it's not like he ever forgot that message. But he just was waiting for the right time. He asked Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur that when he got that instruction from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, I don't think we can't do it. We can't do it at the moment because, we are under British rule and we are looking for freedom. He was a Gandhivadi, Gandhivadi. People are followers of Mahatma Gandhi, think that freedom is more important. But then what did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati just destroyed his argument by saying, Krishna consciousness is the greatest need and the only solution for any problem in the world. And he was a young boy. It's an interview. He says that he was just he felt defeated as soon as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that. He felt he's defeated. He can't say anything more to fight this argument. So he decided, okay, when the time comes, I'm a family man. I have responsibilities. And Prabhupada himself was saying that when he met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was very inspired to take up this message, but because he was associating, then he went to college, he was associating with non-devotees, and he said he was in bad association. Although, Prabhupada cannot be influenced by any bad association, but he was just giving the example that even a great person, a senior person, or someone who is spiritually high with a little bit of bad association can become a bit loose, can forget what the mission is. So we should always try to seek the shelter of devotees, because without devotees, things become very difficult to perform in Krishna consciousness. You may inspire to become a leader, even though nowadays many devotees don't want to take the leadership role because it's very challenging. It's very gives a lot of mental anxiety. Gurudev was actually mentioning in a class I was listening yesterday that he was saying, it's hard for people to take up the lower role of leadership now because, being a leader is big responsibilities. very big responsibility. But when you take that role of leadership, you often get cursed, you often get chastised, you often get, not glorified for your service you're doing. There's a lot of problems that other people try to give you. You have to take a lot of drama, and that could affect a person's consciousness very much. So we should all try to understand the person in the leadership position is just trying to do his best, even though sometimes he may or may not be right. But we should be respectful, because that position is very difficult. There's a lot of challenges that come in that position. So we should be respectful to a leader who's trying to be a leader. So this is a beautiful point that kind of struck me, that I thought worth sharing with all the great leaders assembled in the room today. So we should try to focus on that a little. And what else? Is there any questions, comments, corrections at this point of stage? Or we can just share some nectar stories. Yeah? Would you like to share some nectar story? Some realization you might have? Anything else anyone would like to share? I mean, I can speak more. Yeah. All right. So, as I was mentioning, sometimes we shouldn't feel distracted. That's another beautiful point I was actually thinking about, because distractions can come. Sometimes it feels like, to me, I don't know to anyone else, but to me, all the distractions come in the time when I'm chanting. Has it happened to anyone else? Or, all the distractions of the mind. As soon as you finish chanting, as soon as you stop the beat, put the beat back in the beat bag, all those distractions go away. I was having actually this morning, I was feeling so distracted with so many other things in my mind. And I'm like, now I need to sort this out first before chanting. So I put my beat. As soon as I left my beat, all the distractions were gone. And now I'm chanting Hare Krishna. So this can happen, So this is the great effect of Maya, she will hurt you when you're trying to be strong, So instead, we shouldn't quit. We're not quitters, most of us are Brahmanas and Kshatriyas and, aspiring to be Brahmanas and Kshatriyas. We shouldn't quit. Use this strength of your mind and intelligence and a little sincerity, Gurudev says distractions will come constantly. He said he's chanting from like 40 years, till he feels distracted many times. But it doesn't mean he just give up and, 40 years I've been chanting, I'm still feeling distracted. Throw my beads and go. Take shelter of Maya. No. You can see it's still affecting him. If you compare a little, like for example, in my own example, I've been practicing about 3 years, 4 years, something like that. And if I go compare myself what I was 4 years ago, I can see the difference. So this is what I usually use as an instrument to motivate myself. You think of what you were before joining or before chanting Hare Krishna. If you think of that, things what you were doing, what result you were getting, you automatically feel, now I'm in a better place. Should keep chanting. Should keep doing my sadhana properly. Should read Prabhupada's books. Because all these things we can see it's helping a little bit, I feel a bit more peaceful. I feel a bit more. But even though, sometimes disturbances will come, the point is we shouldn't let it affect us. We should only be focused, Okay, this is affecting me, but that's just the mind. Shouldn't listen to the mind. Don't take it too seriously. A nice devotee, a very good devotee, good friend of mine, once gave me, when I was new, very disturbed when I was new, he gave me this beautiful idea. He said, Prabhu, think of it as a movie going in your mind. Don't get affected by it. Just see, there's so much nonsense in there. Maybe I should stop focusing on that and start focusing on Hare Krishna. So it'll take time. We should, take shelter. And as I said, with the association of devotees, one can cultivate this beautiful chanting. All right, so final questions? No? All right, we'll end here. Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi.